Ayate for telling my husband I'm over talking about our feelings and that he should bring this stuff to his therapist unless it's a real problem. My husband has been in therapy for a few months now. He's always been introverted and not much of a talker. But recently, it feels like every little thing I do hurts his feelings, and I'm honestly getting exhausted. For instance, we hosted Thanksgiving this year, and I barely talked to him during dinner. It wasn't because I was upset. I was busy hosting, serving food, helping guests, cleaning up, making sure everything ran smoothly. Later, he told me his feelings were hurt because he felt ignored. Another time he mentioned that he thought it was weird I was working so much, suggesting I must be using work to escape him. I work from home, and he can literally see me sitting just 10 feet away at my desk. The last straw came last night. I had just gotten out of the shower and was getting dressed when he opened the door. I made a startled noise and instinctively covered myself because I wasn't sure if it was him or one of our kids. To me, that was a normal reaction, but later he brought it up, saying I treated him like some stranger off the street. At that point, I told him I was done with these constant talk about our feelings conversations over every little thing. I explained that if there are real issues in our marriage, I'm more than willing to discuss them. But I can't keep having emotional debriefs about every minor moment where I unknowingly hurt his feelings just by being myself. Now he says I'm being cold and dismissive. I honestly feel like I'm walking on eggshells, as if he's waiting for me to do something wrong. I'm not trying to hurt him, but I also can't be responsible for managing every moment of his emotional state. To add some context, we've been in couples therapy for almost a year. It all started when I came home to find him drunk and barely able to walk while I was the only adult with our kids. After he repeatedly told me he hadn't been drinking, I said it was therapy or separation, and he chose therapy. Our therapist suggested he get his own therapist because he feels like everyone is always out to get him. He was very resistant to the idea at first. He had a previous marriage that didn't end well, and he believes that experience hurt more than helped him. We've been married for almost 20 years, and he's 10 years older than I am. I've always let him take the lead, since he was the primary breadwinner while I was a stay-at-home mom until our youngest started school. We agreed I would go back to work, but he was hesitant about that. It seems there's a misconception that I don't want to talk to him about his feelings, which isn't true. For example, he wants me to go to bed when he does, which is at 8:30 since he has to get up early for work. I struggle with that because I work full-time, am a student, and we have 3 children. There just isn't enough time in the day to get everything done and go to bed that early. Still, I told him I would try to do it more often so he wouldn't feel unimportant. I've apologized for hurting his feelings or making him feel like a stranger. But his response was that I should stop saying sorry and just do better. He even questioned if I love him at all. We've been together for a long time, and while I know I'm not perfect, this constant escalation of his feelings is overwhelming. I reached a point where I thought I just couldn't take one more negative comment. Tifu by making my one-night stand breakfast. A few months ago, I got out of a bad relationship, and it took me a while to feel ready to go out again. My first boyfriend turned out to be a real disappointment, so I was hesitant to put myself out there. But when some old friends from high school invited me for a bar crawl, I thought, why not? It was just a chance to have fun and unwind. At the first bar, we ran into a group of guys from my university. I recognized some of them, but had never talked to them before. One of my friends decided it was time for me to break out of my shell and dragged us over to chat with them. I felt awkward and ended up sitting quietly in the corner, nursing my drink. Then I noticed one of the guys, Adam, was just as quiet. Our friends, already tipsy, thought it would be hilarious to make us play truth or dare, with the catch being that we had to drink if we didn't want to answer. We ended up sharing a lot of personal stories and drinking more than we intended. By the end of the night, Adam and I were definitely on a different wavelength than everyone else. We discovered we had a lot in common, and I found him really cute. We started laughing and goofing around, and I felt butterflies, not just from the alcohol. Adam had my sense of humor and was genuinely sweet. We wandered off to have deep conversations about feeling left out and the frustrating things people say. When I mentioned I was walking home, he offered to join me. I knew where that might lead, but I felt a genuine connection, and honestly, I was too tipsy to be nervous. As we left, our friends cheered us on, and instead of feeling embarrassed, I felt proud. Once we got to my place, we talked and shared a smoke, and then we took things to the next level. The next morning, I woke up before him and decided to make breakfast. I wanted to impress him and figured a good breakfast would be perfect for a hangover. I quietly got out of bed and whipped up scrambled eggs, French toast, and sausage, using almond milk for the eggs and toast. When he woke up, he told me I looked just as cute sober. I was thrilled. My plan was working. We started eating, and everything seemed perfect until he suddenly made a strange face. His eyes widened, and he asked if there were nuts in the bread. I assured him there weren't, but mentioned I used almond milk. That's when he jumped out of his chair, panicking and shouting for me to call an ambulance. I was terrified. He was wheezing and looked genuinely scared. I asked if he had an EpiPen, but he shook his head. I quickly called for help, explaining he was having an allergic reaction, and the paramedics arrived to take him away. This all happened last weekend, and I haven't heard from him since. I checked in with his friend and confirmed he's okay, but I guess accidentally triggering a severe allergic reaction isn't the best way to start a romance. TLDR, tried to impress my romantic interest by cooking for him. He went into anaphylaxis and no longer wants to speak to me. Tifu by accidentally putting icy hot all over my genitals. So, let me tell you about my Christmas Eve disaster. A few hours ago, I made a huge mistake. I was getting ready to see my friend with benefits in a few days, and she had been putting a lot of effort into planning some surprises for our time together. I wanted to reciprocate, so I decided to shave a cute design into my pubic hair. Now, I usually don't shave because of razor burn, but this time it turned out better than I expected. After stepping out of the shower, I rolled on some razor burn solution to soothe the area. It felt great, and I was feeling pretty pleased with my surprise gift. Later that evening, I was winding down, and since I have chronic back pain, I reached for my roll-on icy hot for relief. Here's where things went sideways. In my sleepy state, I grabbed the wrong roll-on. I didn't realize it until it was too late. I rolled icy hot all over my bikini area, and let me tell you, that was a mistake. The familiar tingle quickly intensified into a burning sensation. Panic set in as I recognized the smell of menthol. I rushed to grab a towel, soaked it in cold water, and tried to wipe off the icy hot as quickly as I could. Then I jumped into the tub, splashing cold water on myself and scrubbing with soap like I was trying to erase a crime. It was late, and my family was asleep, completely unaware of my predicament. They didn't know about my sexual life or my use of edibles, and here I was, red-eyed and panicking. After what felt like forever, the burning subsided a bit, and I crept back to my room, still anxious and battling the effects of the edibles. I started Googling my situation, which only made things worse. I convinced myself I had menthol poisoning and spiraled into a panic. I thought about sneaking outside to call poison control, but then I remembered a time I had reached out for help before, and it had been useful. Using those resources helped me calm down and gain some perspective. After washing up, I took another edible to ease my nerves, and thankfully, everything started to feel okay again. Now, looking back, I can't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. So here I am, sharing my silly holiday tale with you all. I hope you enjoy it and never make the same mistake I did. Happy holidays. Update: paid the price for making people laugh at my dad's expense. Recently, it was my dad's birthday, and during my speech, I decided to share a funny story about the day he had the talk with my younger brother. I had been eavesdropping, and one line stuck with me. My dad told my brother that his existence was proof that having kids can be expensive, so he should remember that condoms are cheap. It got a good laugh, and I followed it up with some heartfelt words about what an amazing dad he is. Afterward, my dad thanked me for the speech, but warned me he'd get back at me for sharing that story. I laughed it off, thinking it was just an empty threat. A few days later, while running errands together, we stopped at a gas station. My dad wanted to buy snacks, and I figured I'd wait in the car. But he gave me that look, so I put my phone away and joined him inside. As we approached the cashier, my dad suddenly cashed in on his earlier threat. He asked the cashier to add a box of condoms to our purchase and proudly announced that he was buying them for his son, pointing right at me. I was stunned. The cashier raised an eyebrow and asked which brand he wanted. I quickly tried to explain that my dad was joking, but he cut me off, insisting he would never joke about safe sex. For added embarrassment, he showed the cashier a photo of me with my girlfriend, explaining that he wanted to make sure I didn't let a fleeting moment of fun turn into a lifelong consequence. I couldn't take it anymore and said I'd wait in the car, which I did. When my dad finally came out, he was carrying boxes of condoms in plain sight while the snacks were tucked away. I had to open the car door for him, and he awkwardly climbed in, saying he didn't know which brand I preferred, so he bought a variety. I could only laugh at how far he was willing to go for a little revenge. Fast forward to last night, I had dinner with my family, and my brother and I invited our girlfriends. Before we dug into the meal, someone had to say grace. I volunteered and asked everyone to close their eyes. I took the opportunity to thank my dad for the absurd amount of condoms he bought me. I made it clear how much I appreciated his protective nature, not just as a father but also regarding my well-being. I jokingly mentioned that I was still testing the various brands he had picked up. I shared my thoughts on 3 different kinds I'd tried with my girlfriend. The Climax Delay condoms? Not my favorite, as they dulled the sensation. The Trojan condoms? A disaster that earned an F grade, and I jokingly blamed my dad for the risk of pregnancy. Lastly, I mentioned the Durex condoms I had used right before dinner. They were okay, but I couldn't help but point out that the man who bought them should have known my size better. The looks on everyone's faces were priceless. My brother was barely containing his laughter, while our girlfriends seemed to be waiting for the reactions of others. My mom sarcastically thanked my dad for teaching me never to act my age, since he still had some growing up to do himself. My dad looked at me, as if to say, "Are you happy now?" And honestly, I was. I might not have completely outdone him, but at least I didn't go down quietly. I married my best friend. 6 months later, I learned about his girlfriend. Are we beyond repair? Hey Reddit, I've never posted here before, but I listen to 2 hot takes religiously. I feel like I know the answers I'm going to get, but I need to vent and hear your thoughts. I'm 32, and I married my husband, 31, at the end of June after 8 amazing years together. We've lived together almost from the start. Our wedding and honeymoon were incredible, and we were happy, or so I thought. About 2 months ago, we were cuddling on the couch when I felt something wet on my chest. At first, I joked about him drooling, only to realize he was crying. In 8 years, I'd only seen him cry when we lost our dog. That moment cracked everything open. He admitted he was unhappy, and the floodgates opened. He said we weren't intimate enough, despite our opposite work schedules, allowing us only an hour together once a week. Even with that, we were still intimate at least once a week. He claimed he didn't feel loved, even though I went out of my way every day to show him I cared. He brought up past issues, like when I suggested moving to another state and my hesitation to start a family at 28. I worked tirelessly over the past 2 months to address everything he said was wrong with me. I communicated better, initiated intimacy, read books on saving a marriage, and sought therapy. We even started couples counseling. Yet he cried every day, and whenever we tried to be intimate, he couldn't perform and blamed me. I grew increasingly worried about his mental health. His job is dangerous and stressful, and I feared he was depressed. Then, my therapist asked if he was cheating. At first, I dismissed the idea. When would he have time? But then his mom and sister asked the same thing, urging me to check his phone. I hesitated, not wanting to invade his privacy, but the thought consumed me. Finally, last week, after he came home late, I looked. It was all right there. For months, he'd been having an affair with a bartender. Their messages were filled with declarations of love and explicit photos. I even saw her mention my name a few times. I was devastated. When I confronted him, he admitted he loved her, but insisted he loved me more. I kicked him out and took some time away to be with family. Now, I'm stuck in emotional turmoil. Some days I hate him. Other days I miss him and want him back. He's been my best friend for years, and I love him deeply. We've talked a few times. He claims it was a mistake and that he would take it all back, but he's not making any real effort to make amends. He won't answer any questions about her and doesn't have plans to cut ties. As I write this, I feel ridiculous for even considering whether to work things out. We were trying for a baby and planning a life together. I feel gaslit, confused, furious, and heartbroken all at once. I don't understand how someone could marry me, express unhappiness, and let me twist myself into knots trying to save our marriage while cheating the entire time. Why marry me? I suspect he was involved with her before our wedding, and I can't help but wonder what's wrong with him, and with me. So Reddit, is there any chance of salvaging this? What's my best move? Why do I still want to fix this despite everything? Is it normal to feel this mix of emotions just a week after the breakup? My head and heart feel like they're in two different places. I'd love to hear your thoughts on why I still feel so much love and what that means. Thanks for listening. I made a game where you do IT support for eldritch horrors. It's called IT Never Ends. Hey everyone! I wanted to share something I've been working on inspired by this amazing subreddit. It's called IT Never Ends, a card-based game where you step into the shoes of an IT support technician at a megacorp that's been taken over by Lovecraftian entities after what seems to be an apocalypse. The company is still running, and the support tickets keep rolling in. HR has transformed into a sentient hive mind, and they're very concerned about your PTO balance. In this game, you're a human navigating the chaos of IT Corp. Your users range from Gary in sales and Timmy the intern to reality-bending horrors and middle managers who may not even exist in linear time. You'll swipe left or right on tickets, trying to balance 4 key metrics: productivity, morale, budget, and entropy, all while hoping to make it to retirement. Here are some actual tickets from the game. The printer on floor 7 is printing documents from next week. Please advise. My monitor is showing me, not my screen, me, from behind. The new hire in accounting doesn't cast a shadow. Is this a dress code violation? I keep receiving emails from myself dated 1987. I wasn't born until 1994. The hold music is speaking to me specifically. It knows things. The essence of the game is simple. What if the most absurd ticket you ever received was just another Tuesday? You'll juggle impossible requests, and your sanity is an actual game mechanic. Sometimes the solution really is, have you tried a ritual sacrifice and restart? Some of my favorite endings include the singleton, the database merged everyone into one employee. You are Steve. Everyone is Steve. Steve is very productive. The eternal stand-up. The team has achieved perfect alignment. They never sit. They never work. They only update. The CLI revolution. You realized GUIs were a mistake. The company now sells pure ASCII experiences. Meeting Eternal. You became Meeting Room B itself, trapping employees in pointless meetings for all eternity. Cosmic Quack. Joined the Cosmic Duck Fleet. IT support across the galaxy awaits. The game features over 1,500 unique tickets and story cards, 70 different endings, branching narratives, and even minigames. I wanted to capture the absurdity of IT support. The "this can't possibly be real" tickets, the corporate doublespeak, and that feeling of being the only sane person in the building, even if that's debatable. I've put a playable build on itch to gather feedback before launching on Steam in May. The build is completely free and requires no sign-up. I would love to hear your thoughts, and if you have any real-life tickets that sound like they belong in a horror game, I'm always looking for inspiration. Some of the stories I've read here are already halfway there. Harass me for tickets. I will sell them instead. I bought tickets to a highly anticipated concert with my cousin for $200 each back in February. I had been looking forward to this event all year. A couple of weeks ago, my cousin told me she couldn't go anymore and said I could keep her ticket and invite a friend. Even though she had already paid for her ticket, she insisted I could give it to someone else for free. I invited a friend, and she was thrilled to go. But just days before the concert, she texted me about the forecast. Snow, extreme cold, and strong winds were expected. I checked the weather apps and even listened to the local news, and it didn't look promising. I told my friend that I don't drive in the snow, and that taking the train wasn't an option either. The cold would be unbearable, especially since I sometimes have to wait outside for the train. I mentioned that if the weather turned bad, I would just transfer the tickets to her so she could go without me. That's when she started pressuring me to let her know ahead of time, so she wouldn't be scrambling at the last minute. I explained that weather predictions can change, and I wouldn't know until the day of the concert how bad it would be. She lived close to the venue, so getting there would be easier for her, even in bad weather. But it made me uncomfortable that she was already planning to go with someone else before the snow even hit. I knew she had a friend she often went to concerts with, and it felt like she was just waiting for me to hand over the tickets. After thinking it over, I decided to list my tickets for resale instead. When I told her, her response was simply, "Wow." I replied, "Did you really expect me to transfer $400 worth of tickets before the snow even hits? Or do you want to buy them yourself?" She didn't respond. Even if the tickets didn't sell, I wasn't giving them to her. The next morning, she texted me, offering $200 for both tickets, since my cousin had already said she could have the other one for free. I replied, "Wow, that's so generous. A real friend would invite me to stay over, so I wouldn't miss this once-in-a-lifetime concert." That's what my cousin would have done, since she lives nearby. I could tell she was already planning to take someone else. I wasn't falling for it. If she was willing to pay $200, why not cover my Uber costs, which would be $150 round trip, or offer to pay for a hotel if she didn't want me in her house? Something felt off about the whole situation. In the end, my ticket sold for full price, so now I have $400 and can give my cousin her money back. An update 2.5 years later. I Nida for wanting to spend time with my wife instead of babysitting my little sister. I recently celebrated my 5-year anniversary with my wife. We had planned a beautiful day, starting with a nice restaurant, followed by a hot air balloon ride, and ending with a relaxing time by the lake. I had even bought her flowers to make the day special. But then, just a day before our anniversary, I received a text from my mom asking me to babysit my little sister for a week while she and my dad visited my aunt, who had just been diagnosed with leukemia. I love my sister, even though there's an 18-year age gap between us. She has some challenges, but she's a wonderful kid. I debated saying yes, but I didn't want to juggle a child while trying to enjoy my anniversary with my wife. So I politely declined. I thought that would be the end of it. The next day, while we were at the restaurant, my phone started buzzing nonstop. It was filled with angry messages from my parents, calling me all sorts of names because they showed up at my house and found it empty. They were furious and began ignoring my messages. I was left wondering if I was in the wrong. In the comments, I clarified that I had to work during most of that week. I truly love my sister, but I felt overwhelmed by the situation. My parents had pulled similar stunts before, but I thought we had moved past that. As time went on, I decided to go low contact with my parents. This was a tough choice, but after reflecting on their behavior and seeking advice, I realized it was necessary for my well-being. When I spoke to them about my decision, they were not happy, and it was clear they didn't understand my perspective. My wife revealed that my parents never really accepted her, which was a shock to me. I had always thought they liked her, even if they weren't close. Now, I only communicate with them at family gatherings or when my sister wants to see me. I made sure my sister knew that I wasn't cutting her off, just stepping back from our parents. We also learned that she has level 1 autism, which has helped us understand her needs better. Tragically, my aunt passed away a little over a year ago as her condition worsened. But on a happier note, I'm now a proud father to a 3-month-old son. The pregnancy was unexpected, but brought joy during a difficult time. I don't plan on updating again unless something significant changes. Thank you all for your support throughout this journey. I'm the comedian, but you're the joke. I do stand-up comedy sometimes, and one night, I was performing at a bar and restaurant. While waiting for my set, I was sitting in the back, catching up on some emails. I went to the bar to grab a drink and chatted with the bartender for a few minutes. Just as I got the signal that I had 5 minutes until showtime, I realized I'd left my phone on the bar. I rushed back to get it, and that's when I encountered Karen. She was at a table near the center, surrounded by a group of friends, and her voice was piercing through the room. I was wearing a bright yellow sweatshirt and cargo shorts, while the servers were all in black. "Sir, excuse me, sir," she called out. "What's up?" I replied. "Can you check on our food, please? We ordered wings and it's been like half an hour." "Your server can help you with that. I'm not a waiter," I explained. "What? Oh, dish boy, line cook, whatever. You work here, so just ask about my food when you go back there." "Oh no, you see No, I get it. You aren't a waiter. But do you work here?" "Kind of. Let me explain." Someone from her party tried to interject, but Karen cut them off. "Shut it, okay? I've got this. You work here. Just a quick trot, carry the food, and it's done." "I can't do that," I said. "Why not?" she shrieked, her voice rising. Her friends were trying to calm her down, waving me away. I was torn between walking away to avoid trouble or staying to confront her. Just then, the NC announced me, and I knew I had to act. I locked eyes with Karen and walked backward to the stage without flinching. Grabbing the microphone, I said, "Well, I'd hoped to do a show for you tonight, folks, but it looks like that won't be possible. Apparently, I've been reassigned." I started riffing about people who mistakenly think you work somewhere when you don't. Then, just as luck would have it, the waitress came out with wings, headed straight for Karen's table. I knew the waitress well, having performed there before. I transitioned smoothly, saying, "You caught me, lady. Can't hide anymore." I grabbed the wings and joked, "Ooh, Donna, I see you trying to hone in on my section. Can't you see this is my table?" Throughout my set, I would go over to refill their water glasses and bust their plates. Whenever I hit a dry spot, I'd say, "All right, hold on. Gotta check in with my customers. Can I interest you in any dessert?" Karen was not amused, but the rest of her group was laughing hysterically, even flagging me down for more water. When my set ended, Karen stormed off to file a complaint. Some of her friends tried to stop her, and a few even left the venue because of her. A couple stayed back to defend me, and I reassured them that the manager and I were on good terms. The manager was an old-school guy with no tolerance for nonsense. He was used to handling rowdy customers. So when Karen complained about mistreatment, he played dumb. "Who, this guy?" he asked, even though everyone had seen me give her a hard time. "Yes," Karen shouted. "He doesn't work for me," the manager replied. "What are you talking about?" she exclaimed. "It's 11:30 p.m. He worked for me from 10 until 11. That's what I paid him for. Now he's just some guy." Karen insisted I had been rude when I was serving her, and I quipped, "Of course I was. It's not that kind of show." She demanded a refund or an apology. I said, I might have been a little rude towards the end, but in my defense, she didn't tip. The manager asked, "Did you not tip?" "Why would I tip the comedian?" Karen replied. "I thought you said he was acting as a server?" the manager shot back. In her tipsy state, Karen thought smashing a glass would make her point. Instead, it got her kicked out. Her remaining friends apologized to the manager, saying they barely knew her and hoped it wouldn't affect their ability to return. He was kind about it. I told them I hoped I hadn't ruined their night, and they couldn't wait to share the story of Karen's outburst. So, I don't see a career as a waiter in my future. Kudos to all the service workers who deal with these difficult customers, day in and day out.